Welcome back. I ended up stopping it. You were you weren't on mute, so I just stopped it and then restarted it. All right, so good timing because I was
Somehow
just
I got disconnected.
Oh yeah, that's all right because you weren't on mute, so I couldn't find the mute button, so I just stopped the recording. I just restarted it here.
Oh, okay.
So, all right, so anyways, long story short here, let's get rolling. So I was going to start with the indexes. Just chit-chatting with John a little bit here. All right, so let's take a look at the Nasdaq here. Well, let me just make sure I got the recording on and everything. All right, cool. You never know. Sometimes one time I forgot, it didn't go well. I got like a couple DMs like, "Oh, yeah, I really want to watch the recording." I'm like, "I'm sorry." Sometimes you just, just doesn't work out that way. I'm sorry, anybody who might be listening. All right. So, guys, what does this look like to you? Let's start there. Does this look like a strong pattern to you or a weak pattern? It's not really like a pop quiz. It's just more of like and I'm not really looking for confirmation bias either. I'm just it's like now that we've had a couple more weeks of price action to look at, now it kind of looks a little bit different than where it did before. And it seems like it kind of limits more of the possibilities where price might go. So this is where I think it would be a pretty good point to stop and kind of talk about some more like longer term scenarios, like if then kind of things.
Is it kind of consolidating? Just kind of could go either direction.
Yeah, I think
that's what it looks like to me. It could go either direction.
Yes, and I don't want to be one of the things I'm trying hard not to do is I'm trying not to have like bias creep into these sort of like chart patterns and stuff. Like I'm really trying, at least like in the last couple months, I've been trying to like pivot more towards like the working people where it's like who don't really have a lot of time to day trade, who can't do things like during the day, but at least like you can set up the week. So if you're like a swing trader, let's say you want to pick up some TQQQ at some good levels and then ride it up for another another correction or something like that, or not correction, sorry, like you want to ride it up for like another retrace, then what I'm trying to do is try to give you guys like good levels where you might want to add or increase cost basis or something like that. So I want to try to give like both scenarios. Now, it could go either way. However, longer term, this does look like a consolidation pattern. We all know that. I think I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now. But what typically happens with these is they do kind of revolve. Excuse me. I still got this like weird throat thing. They do typically resolve to the downside, especially after you see like a trend line break. So what was important to see at the end of last week, I think this was right after the webinar. I think what was it? Last week's webinar, Wednesday, can't remember. I want to say we were right around like we had just kind of broken this trend line, and it was like, well, you probably have a retracement up and then maybe a retest lower. Well, that's exactly what happened. But the key that I was trying to flag here was this this one kind of stab, this one little test of the lows here, and or not the low, yeah, like breaking this trend line. And back last week I had said like, okay, well, since that's happened, now you're kind of on like pivot watch, if that makes sense, like pivot lower watch. And it did bounce after that. Let me see if I can add in the I don't have the SMAs here. Okay, sorry. But I guess long story short here is that we did get a bounce back up and it was a pretty high retrace, but that's also kind of like expected after you get some sort of trend line break, because what you're really looking for is you're looking for this like you're really looking for this like how strong the retrace is going to be, and that kind of like foreshadows like what the next move is going to be. So typically when you see these trend line breaches, you can see continuations, but this one was more of like a test, I think. And then you could see here after only like a day where they bought it up, and just kind of let me zoom in a little bit. So after they bought it up, they tried to reclaim, they tried to make new high, and then it just got sold down pretty quickly. And as you could see here, just by by Sunday, we had a gap down. So typically, trending bull markets, you don't really see gap downs. So that really wasn't unexpected either. So now, typically, last week, the last couple of days, I think it's been pretty. It's actually been relatively easy to kind of trade this. Well, not including news, news trading days. Those are kind of ridiculous. But really, what you're looking at now is like a downward trend, and it's sort of like a continuation. But you can kind of see that it was, kind of running out of steam here. I know it's kind of, seems subjective, like just drawing lines on a chart, but realistically, what you're looking for is if there's a continuation past specific fib levels. So, for example, like this level here, we did see a lot of buying off of that. And yesterday, you can kind of like during pre-market, you kind of see that the bulls are really trying to buy up quickly, and they did. So it was really like two short squeezes in a day, and then you saw some covering here from the bears. But ultimately, it really wasn't that like that crazy to think that there was going to be some sort of retrace like this. Now the question is, where does it go from here? So I think overall, now that this lower trend line has been breached, now I think what we need to look for is like a short-term sort of bearish situation, and then a short-term bullish, and then after that, kind of look and see like what's going to be, or not what's going to, like what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen, but what could happen after this. So once this, the first kind of tight pattern was breached, the next step here is that you could kind of see that, this seems like a pretty logical sort of, A equals B kind of sell, freehand here. Okay, so maybe it extends a little bit further, something like this, but that still sort of leaves our like ascending wedge pattern here intact. So it just expands the pattern a little bit. I call it pattern expansion. So let's say we get a big sell day tomorrow. Let's say there's some news event or whatever. We're gonna invade Ecuador and demand 90% of the GDP or something. Who knows? Sorry. But I guess what that means though is just trying to be careful trading this. Like, it doesn't look super bullish right now, even though the last 2 days have been bullish. It's just been really headline driven. And you saw resistance today. You saw some pretty strong short covering yesterday, but you've also seen a lot of accumulation at these levels. So now we're at the point of control again, and we've kind of been here for a while, and a lot of volumes traded hands. So I think what you're seeing is probably some people that are accumulating more, short positions, distributing more shares. Over the last couple of days, I've seen a lot of concentration of 0 DTE put value. So I guess what that means for swing traders and stuff is that right now I'd kind of be looking at potentially offloading some longs, or at least like trimming up some positions or adding some downside protection. I don't think that we'll have like a big sell-off right now. I think that'll probably come when the Supreme Court announces a decision. Either it's going to be yes or no on tariffs or whatever. I still don't think it's going to make a difference. I think it's just going to be like a sell the news kind of event, because either we're going to have to refund a lot of money, via tariffs, which is going to be a mess, or we're going to have to, keep tariffs on, which kind of, strangles growth, and it passes along to the consumer. So I guess it's kind of like a net negative, no matter what, like just from an economic standpoint, but it's really more like a net negative for the market. Not necessarily like, sorry, I said that wrong. Like money into the treasury, sure, great, but from a market trading perspective, I still think it's not a good thing for like where prices are right now. I think it's kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. And also one thing I want to say is this trend line back test, this still counts as a back test, and technically speaking, that is a very weak signal that they can't really breach this. And now they might do it tomorrow. Who knows? Free lunch Friday, right? But I guess all I want to say here is that the short-term outlook does look more bearish than bullish, but I can't discount that there is some sort of bullish element here. So let's let's make a kind of a bullish prediction. So for right now, this sort of oh, somebody turned on the light. It's my wife. Sorry, she'll beat me up later. Somebody help me. All right, so with this pattern here, I would say there is a very significant chance that you would see like a B wave. So it'll kind of look like this, where you might have like a dip down and maybe get some more shorts that cover, but then you could get a potentially, strong C leg move up. And when you're looking at these sort of patterns here, it's like the middle of a correction sort of pattern. So it's kind of it looks kind of weird now, but you could see like you could see the Nasdaq resolve higher, and that's probably going to be the last leg up for a while. I could see potential around like 26,000. So let's do like a quick line there, like 26,000 seems pretty reasonable. And from like a timing perspective, it's probably a whole week of buying and consolidating. But that's if this plays out. Now, there's a couple other scenarios, but those are the two major ones short term that jump out at me, which is one, the bearish, which I think is probably like 60-40. Bearish is probably like 60%, 40% bull. But this is the short term scenario where you could see this it's drawn higher. And then there's the secondary piece, which is you just see more selling, like more continuation here. The real key test is going to be right at like your 24, 650, 600 kind of level. And if you see that level break, then in my opinion, this pattern might be cooked. So instead of seeing this ABCD, what we might see is something like this. So we made a slightly higher high, but yeah, you might see, like a real, actually kind of a beefy C leg here. And another thing that's kind of jumping out at me is, you could see this like a 5-wave down kind of thing. And today we could have seen the top of wave 2. So it's very difficult to like, especially in these consolidation patterns where, like for somebody like me that stares at charts all day, like to a fault. So by staring at these charts, you kind of see things, you see patterns repeat themselves, you see different things that kind of like consolidate together, no pun intended, but they kind of glom together, and like there's 3 or 4 things that really jump out. Like, okay, so the price action looks bearish, there's big lot sells, we have some international saber rattling stuff, consumer sentiment is kind of down a little bit. So we have all these kind of signals that are usually bearish, and to discount that would be a mistake, but also too, you don't want to miss out on some good bull action. So I think to kind of summarize everything here, you're really at like the bifurcation point. So before I've kind of talked to you guys about like kind of drawing a box around some of the price action, where this is at least in my opinion, this is probably the easiest way to kind of trade these kind of messy zones. So if it's a breakout higher, then you should hedge shorts. I probably wouldn't go like super long, just because, again, like you could see this continuation here. You could see this pattern break. Like I've seen this multiple times where this is a much larger wave 2, where like I think I've seen this in stocks more than I've seen it like with indexes, but I have seen this before where, and again, I don't want to scare crap out of anybody, but let's say we get another bull run up higher, that turns into a very bearish sort of pattern here, where you can get an actual real kind of 20% correction here, which is like a 5-wave down. So like peak to trough, let's say you do like 20%, but realistically, that still only puts you to about like half of where we were back in April. So it's really not that bad when you think about it, just because like proportionally, yeah, it looks scary, but it's almost like, you know, we kind of need it. It's like, you know, you got to lead the horse to the water, the horse got to drink. But you know, you could also kind of see these kind of scary consolidation patterns, like they're staring at you right in the face and they're saying like, hey, we're getting tired up here, you know. And that's kind of what I'm seeing up here, is that things have gotten a little nuts. And you're also kind of getting some of these longer term weekly sell signals. One of these things too, because I don't want to leave the bulls, you know, scratching their head like, you know, I don't want to say like what's not possible, right? It is entirely possible. So instead of just, you know, being a, you know, bear doom and gloom, it's entirely possible this is like a wave 4. And what you could see here is like a continuation. Like, you know, you can see some consolidation at these levels, like with just the Nasdaq in general. But again, like one of these larger signals, like these, this is a weekly sell signal, by the way. So if you kind of, you know, you go back, you see like a weekly sell signal that you had like back in December of 21. Then we had 9 months of selling after that. You know, we got a, you know, weekly exhaustion count back in July of 23, and we had 3 months of selling. So you've gotten all these other signals where you've gotten some decent selling. And I mean, it's not a perfect indicator. You look here, you know, it's a swing and a miss for sure. But I'd say overall, it's got a pretty decent track record. You know, you got these buy signals at the bottom of these longer, you know, selling exhaustion accounts. And, you know, you've got these larger buy signals like these A13s, you know, that pretty much what that means is just, it's a continuation of an exhaustion count. So it's like markets have pushed a little farther than normal than what would stimulate some sort of selling or buying. So it's like, it's kind of like, you know, the darker the red, the more strong, like the stronger of a sell signal it's going to be, versus, you know, same thing as like, you know, the darker the blue is going to be a stronger buy signal. So yes, right now we are still on top of the 200 daily moving average, but you know, considering how far we've come in the last couple of years, I think that, you know, this, all since April, you know, we're really going to be getting close here to about a year of just one giant wave 5 structure. And I think that, you know, I do think it's kind of run its course. And I think we're kind of seeing you know, I think we were kind of saw like a wave 5 here, but I'll probably be wrong on that. To be honest, like I think probably what we'll see is maybe something a little bit more like this. So longer term bullish, we might see something like this, where we see like a wave 4 pullback, and, you know, kind of shake out some people here, and then you probably find some support, you know, with like the 200 daily moving average. Maybe you find it at the like maybe here at the top of like the prior top before the tariff announcement stuff. But that would be a pretty deep cut, but it would still be technically valid. So I guess, you know, what the easiest way I can say it is, if we see like some sort of, you know, AVC down, that would actually kind of be nice, because you'd have a nice viable dip and finally get some sort of volatility that you would actually get some, you know, you could actually get some nice returns out of that, because the last couple of weeks have been nonsense, you know, just chopping around, killing everybody. So yeah, so hopefully that kind of like covers both of the scenarios. I think that I don't want to like gloss over either of them. I still think that there is, you know, equal possibility for, I'd say like longer term bull or longer term bear, but short term, I think it's probably tilted more towards bear. So hopefully that makes sense.
I think the PCE report comes out tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Pretty sure. And that will have a big impact.
Oh, PCE, yeah.
Which way this goes. So I'm figuring if it's negative and we get a gap down off of that, I think that could be it for the bull move.
Yeah, it's possible. I think
if it's positive, you could get another. You know, it could pop through and make another high here.
It could. Yeah.
But I think you have. The way I'm looking at it is, if this thing could reverse to the downside at any point, and you really got to be ready to turn on a dime if you're long, and
Right.
and get short in a hurry, because we are due for a pullback.
Yes.
So,
Um,
you know, it's just a matter of how much, like you said, how much more distribution they want to grab out of this thing.
yeah, yeah, and I do have kind of a thought, and I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not, because I think I just read that today was the last day that the Supreme Court was going over oral arguments for the tariff thing, but they do have some sort of meeting tomorrow. So I think tomorrow is probably the last time that you might hear something out of the court, or I think they're recessed until sometime in February. But
Yeah.
they're supposed to take effect in February, right? So it's like I don't know. So I think like if you hear some sort of surprise like tariff announcement, I mean, in my opinion, like I mean, I can't give advice, but I'm getting the hell out of the market as fast as possible, just because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's motivated sellers, motivated buyers. Like, it's easy to get chopped up, and like if you know, like if, for example, if you're in TQQQ and it drops 10%, I mean that's only a couple percent down. I mean you're only looking at like if you see just a nice nice little sea leg kind of down here. I mean that's 10%. That sucks. So my opinion is like if you lighten up some longs, and let's say you do get some ABC down like this, you've kind of skipped 10% of that, and then what you could do is you can either add down here and maybe try to play a bounce. I mean that's possible, but it depends on how fast the selling goes, because like when you're in a wave 3, it kind of feels like a wave 3, at least like when you again stare at charts like I do all the time. And if you've been in the markets for for decades, you kind of know what like a wave 3 feels like. It's just every buying opportunity gets sold, or like on the flip side, every short gets stopped. So but kind of like what Don said, I do think that longer term we are getting to the point where there's been a little bit too much excess going around here. I think bulls are kind of getting a little delusional up here, like it's just going to keep going and going and going. But I think we're like midpoint through some sort of correction. So this is either like a longer term B wave that we're making some sort of ending pattern on, or it's just like we're really setting up for a pretty deep correction here. And again, I don't want to be a doomsday sayer about it, but just mathematically, like the longer there's lots of market studies and stuff on this. Like the longer that markets consolidate, usually the vast majority of the time, I think it was like 86% of the time or something like that, there's like on the daily level, like when you have consolidation patterns, like the time function of it reversing or again flipping to the upside, is it's usually like a 1 to 3. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say markets consolidate for 2 months, then you could have 6 months of like the protracted move. So if there's selling, like it could be a 6-month bear market kind of thing, and then you buy at the bottom. And again, if somebody else has better information, that please chime in, let me know. But that's at least I read an article about it a while back. Saw some data on it that looked pretty good and pretty well researched. But overall, I guess the theme here is that if you're long, we're kind of getting close to that point of control, top of the range, and you're really only talking about this this kind of it's probably maybe 1%, maybe slightly less, but I mean you're only going to get marginal new highs here, even if you have. Sorry, go ahead. There we go. So you probably only get marginal new highs if it does continue up. So if we do see this kind of ABC like this, I think that the most important thing to be aware of is that it's kind of like the battle between good and evil, but I'm not sure who's evil and who's good, kind of at this line here. So it's like the 25 250 kind of thing, where you get let's say you get a 50% pullback from where we blew off from Wednesday, or like last week, when or just Wednesday in general. If we get a pullback and then it bounces hard, then it's a long. but it's really kind of subjective. So again, if you're like working all day and you can't be watching the markets, to me, it's like a higher risk kind of long right now. So I mean, like me personally, I've taken a little bit of, my fund money account. I've taken some, I've cashed out my TQQQ because I haven't flipped short. I've just like went to cash, and that's kind of like a long only account sort of thing. Just, kind of flipping to cash and kind of watching what it does. Because I don't have like strong short conviction yet, but we could if we end up, continuing, to breach this. Like, for example, if we get news that, Supreme Court, rules tariffs, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you'll probably see an immediate reaction in the market, but I would pick up some short shares at that point. But that's kind of like a catalyst. So right now, there's really no catalyst to drive major selling up or major selling down or news up, unless it's, we're going to war one day and the next day we're not. Who knows? So I mean, I joke about it. It's serious, but I guess there is a lot of, I feel like there is a lot of manipulation going on right now with markets, and it's a little difficult to trade. All right, so I've talked a lot. Does that? Oh, hey, here we go. Here's my. I just flipped to the S&P here, and this is what we talked about last week with a potential for a wave 4 kind of correction like this. So I didn't move any of the lines or anything like that, but this is kind of kind of funny when you go back and look at these charts that you haven't touched in a while. And this would be like a classic, like textbook definition of an irregular correction, or like a longer term sort of wave 4. And just to kind of add more context to this, we got these big trend lines here, long-term trend lines that they demand respect. So any breach of these major trend lines will be significant for markets. So I guess what did I say, like 25,250 for the Nasdaq, and I would say any breach of 6695 or like 6700 would be pretty bearish. So and again, like if you are going to test these trend lines, it's going to be strong because there's going to be a lot of volume for support. So I would definitely look for strength from like sellers. And that's kind of where you do see these wave 3s because, they need to punch through the support. So it's like they just pile on, because the bulls do the same thing as the bears. All right. So that's kind of the indexes. Any questions or something that's not clear? Hopefully I spent enough time on both short-term bull and bear and long-term bull and bear.
I just wanted to comment on this tariff thing is not with the market, just how either way the public gets screwed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You just pay higher prices. Yeah.
If they say they have to return the money, they're not returning it to the public. Yeah. They're returning it to the companies who charge the public, and the public's never going to see that money.
That's right. They might lower prices, but the money's already been spent.
and if they keep the tariffs, the public gets screwed that way too. So either way,
indeed,
it's a lose-lose.
Somebody's getting rich and it's not me. That's unless the market sells off 20%, then that might change. All right. Just because I do have to wrap in about 10 minutes here. I gotta help with my kids. All right. So the yield itself is kind of rocking and rolling now. Yes. I think a good catalyst from that was the Bank of Japan. I think their yields have been shooting up too.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that's
big time.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna be following suit there. It's been consolidating for quite some time. I mean, geez, since September. Plus we got kind of a weekly buy. I guess sell off in bonds. You know what I mean. The flip side with yields, but we've also got this big overbought signal here, but I don't think it's going to last long. I think this is just kind of like a B wave here, and it's just going to keep rising. So I might add to my TMV position, but I might wait to see if it revisits maybe like the 4.22 level. Again, we'll see. All right, gold. This one's been kind of funny today. Yeah, hilarious.
Every time it looks like a top, it
turns
around and goes higher.
That's right. So I'm seeing two things with metals right now. I'm seeing extended wave 5s, And I'm also seeing like this isn't really like a corrective, like sometimes I'll say like irregular or flat. Like some people don't know what that means. Some people don't care. This is not that. I just think that this is extended wave fives everywhere. So
Yes.
we have extended fifth wave up here, but sometimes when you measure this, well, everything is subjective when you use fib levels and waves and stuff. But there are some pretty solid rules when it comes to extension levels, because I say it a bunch. Algorithms are programmed by humans, and humans typically use what has worked in the past. So if you have infinite money, you just kind of keep buying and dollar cost averaging and stuff, and it ends up being all right. But for gold and stuff, I think it's been such a bull market, and we are in a blow off top. Like, to me, this is pretty clear blow off top. When you look back, yep, pretty solid. It looks parabolic. It's like that. It's like that. It's kind of like Nvidia. So, but Nvidia, is kind of capping out too. So, Don, I think we talked about this last week. It's like this kind of flag that we had here back in June, and it's kind of just consolidating for quite some time. That's when we started to see a lot more interest in that, and I think a lot more. I think at the time, like, the CPI was pretty elevated, and they were talking about keeping rates flat, and I think a lot of people accumulated gold, and that's kind of where we saw that blow up top. But still, I guess technically, this flag is kind of playing itself out here. This is actually probably the biggest bull pennant I think I've ever seen.
Well, so, what would it measure to if you use that as the midpoint?
5,200, almost exactly. Yeah, almost exactly. So
I mean, obviously 5,000 is like within grasping reach,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you could, if it did extend even higher here, you could probably see like 5090 before like a wave 4 pullback sort of thing. But I do think that like this 5202, really, 5,200 is like your it's like your longer term extension level. And if it goes past that, then look out, because then it's probably going to 5840. It's like, it's just with these blow off tops, guys, like, it's really hard to pin it down, like where it's going to reverse and whatever. But when it happens, you'll know.
So, you'll know when you get a pullback, and then you get another move up, and then you reverse and take out the low of that pullback.
That's right. And I've also noticed that there's a lot of moves with metals that happen during the night. So yes. I don't know if it's like international markets, or maybe it's like a lot more controlled by like Chinese markets.
No, I think it's London.
London, okay.
Yeah.
Because I do have to get some sleep sometimes. So but it's like I can't watch all the markets. I'm not a crypto trader. I can't sit in the dark with energy drinks and So okay, so kind of summarize.
And they're sleeping during the daytime. So
that's right. So so for metals in general, I do think we've hit some sort of like kind of, I don't want to say it's like, oh, it's final top, but I think we're getting close to a point where volume and velocity is going to matter. Like, you're starting to see, I mean, look at the volume curve on this. You're starting to see just massive sells to kind of shake out weak hands, but then you're also seeing these massive buys at the top. So it's bulls who bought in down here who want to just keep the party going because there's momentum behind it, and they're not wrong. So I mean, it's a good bull trade to be in, but in my opinion, like, I would be moving. Like, I cashed out long gold, a while ago, and I didn't want to re-enter just because I hate blow-off tops. I never, they never play well for me. But if you're still long, like metals and stuff, trimming a little bit, or at least like setting some stops, is a good idea. It's just it's one of those things where you don't want to be like greedy with it, or like you don't want to be too greedy, but you can be a little greedy because it's a blow-off top. So like don't think that it's going to end tomorrow. But if you don't have stops set and it reverses 10% in a day like silver did the other day, I won't feel sorry for you because
No,
blow
you
off
can't.
top is a blow off top. You gotta take that loot and scoot sometimes, guys. So
Uh, the thing that was interesting today was the miners, the silver miners, have been lagging. They've been like going up
yes,
like really grudgingly, except for Hecla. I don't know what's going on with that. That was like the laggard in the first wave up, and this wave it's gone crazy. But all the
yeah,
other ones have been dragging and dragging. And today, for the first time, they exploded to the upside. They were all up
okay.
a couple dollars.
Interesting.
The SILJ went up from like 34 to 37 or something.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I don't know
Yeah, I didn't
what
get a
that
chance to look at
means.
the
Does
miners
that
today.
mean that we're close to the end now, that they're finally catching up?
Probably, yeah, probably because I mean, yeah, I mean, supply is a thing, but it's I don't know, like it's the blow off top dynamics where it's like birds of a feather, right? They all flock together. So when you're
Mhm.
when you're when you're it pulls everything up with it. So sorry, I guess birds of a feather is probably the wrong thing to say. It's more like all ships rise and fall with the tide, especially if it's concentrated in one little sector. Um, so like it's no wonder why like miners are going up now that silver's gone up, but it's pulling it up because of the prices.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
they were really like, they would go down on days that silver was up for days and days and days.
yeah, sometimes like it's a
And
little
then
hard to pinpoint.
and today,
Um,
like a switch, like it hit a switch and they just exploded.
yeah, I think also too there was just a lot of liquidity that was funneled into the markets over the last day and a half.
Mhm.
And usually when you see big buys like you saw, with like just news driven buys, it's like everywhere. It's like across the market. And typically what they're trying to do is they're trying to like regenerate momentum to the long side because they probably have large long positions. They either need to rescue or they've built, just accumulating as the bears have been selling. And that's, and usually these huge institutions, they're in everything. They have shares of everything or options or futures or whatever. And usually if they juice the market with indexes, they'll probably, and I do see that where like normal correlations don't hold well when you have these like major news events. So like typically you'll see, like metals inverse of equities, but at this point, I think like you're seeing like a sector rotation almost that you don't normally see, which is everybody's going to
Mhm.
metals because everybody knows metals is it's a good inflation hedge, and that's also kind of why I think like maybe oil and gas are starting to pick up is because there's really no
Mhm.
more alpha left in the market to get without a pullback anywhere. Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah, Bitcoin, but like you can't hold a Bitcoin. I think a lot of the old school investors, like I guess I consider myself an old school speculator. Like I can hold a bar of gold in my hand, can't hold Bitcoin. I can hold a
Right.
smashed computer when it craters in value. But anyways, I digress.
That was a question I had. I got an email that said you covered the SCO trade.
Oh, that was just a day. I put yeah, here, let me put oil. That was when they had this big sell day. I can't remember what happened. Gosh, been a lot stuff that happened since then. Uh, there was it something with Iran? That's right. They said like military actions off the table or something like that,
Yeah,
and then oil dropped. But all I did was just I did like a 50% hedge, and then I
right.
got out of it like the very next day.
Oh, that was from a couple of days ago. So I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
missed
So
that. So,
that was kind of fast.
I'm still, well, I have a put, not a put. I have a call on SCO that I'm holding.
Okay.
And then I have calls on UCO.
Okay.
So
It's possible. It's possible we see both. So
yeah,
we could see this kind of looks like a B wave to me here, but I'm not going to add shorts just because it's been jumping off the 50. That's what the purple line is here. It's
mhm,
been jumping off the 50, and that's been I think it's now it's acting like support versus resistance, like you kind of saw it on the way down.
yeah.
So I'd like to see if it actually bounces again, and if it doesn't bounce, and it sells back down, then I'll probably, I mean, I hate to add because I have a huge position with long oil, but it's just been doing nothing. Like I want to redeploy the capital, do something else.
Mhm.
It's driving me nuts.
Well, the oil stocks have been doing decently. You
Yes.
know, like Chevron,
Yes.
that's moved up a little bit, and a
Yeah.
couple other ones have moved up. The drillers have made a nice move.
Yeah. And I kind of
Schlumberger,
wonder, I kind of wonder if
Halliburton.
that's, I kind of wonder if that's like related to just like Venezuela news, like you know, American companies might have preferential
Yeah, they
treatment,
got a
and
bounce from that,
who knows?
which is
Yeah.
stupid because that's like years away.
Yeah, right. Like there's no speed to benefit for that. I
That's
agree.
like 10 years from now. Something they'll see something.
Yeah, the who was the CEO is getting roasted? I think
Exxon.
Exxon. That's right, because they said like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we're just not interested.
We're not.
And it's like,
Yeah.
well, what do you mean you're not interested? Like, well, we're not interested.
Yeah. Well, because
Oh,
I think I read that the Venezuelan oil is so dirty, it costs like $80 a barrel to
yeah,
bring it up.
right.
So who's
And
going
current
to drill it?
economics do not support that.
When oil's at 60, who's going to drill for $80 a barrel
Right,
oil?
right, exactly. Especially with the prospect that it might go a little bit lower too. So,
Yeah.
all right,
mean,
I do
it's
have
not-
to. Sorry, I gotta hustle along here. I gotta get rolling. But
I have one quick question. What are you
yeah.
doing with the quantum stocks if the market's going to go down?
Quantum stocks, I'll probably sell calls on it or cash out the positions. Let me just take a look at those quick. Because yeah, I haven't done an update on that in a hot minute. So let me do that.
They've really been treading water.
Yeah. I think they're just going through accumulation right now. I mean, I think people are now starting to get the memo that, like, you know, silicon's not going to be everything for everybody always, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I think that it is kind of, you know, we are kind of seeing like a you know, push down just in general. QBTS is probably not the or DWA is probably not the best one to look at. I think probably more you know, QUBT, I think it's just kind of, yeah, you're right, treading water. I don't think I have any shares in that right now. I'll have to check, but
You
like
have a
at 9,
I think you're small in that one.
oh yeah, okay, like five grand or something. But I think it's like if it hits a 786, you know, right around 9, I'll probably pick up a lot more. RGTI, yeah, they're all going through the same thing right now. They're just kind of like sitting right above those retracement levels. Anything above, if it tags to 200, I'll definitely pick up some more shares.
I mean, they're in a
right.
position to go up, but if the market's going to go down, they're not going up.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so I don't want to like go large with that. So I think maybe I'll probably trim up a little bit. Yeah, they've just been kind of chopping here. Probably it depends. I'll look at them tomorrow. So like if we end up going bull and you know, making higher highs with the indexes, then it'll probably drag quantum stocks a little higher. But yeah, you're right. Like if there's a sell off or something, like, you know, all boats, right? So sorry, I haven't really updated these charts. They look a little bit weird, but yeah, long story short here is that the consolidation, I just been kind of waiting because I think you know, you'll see you know, you'll probably see something maybe like this, and it just kind of makes a rounded top, and you know, it's not necessarily a bullish pattern, but you could see like a, you know, like a cup and handle sort of thing, and then, you know, like a you know, head back down to, you know, where you know, before like pre-breakout, because like you know, a lot of these institutions are accumulating shares because they don't know what's gonna, you know, what's gonna take off and what's not. But you know, RGTI, IonQ, they both have government backing, so you know, we need to at least like consider that, because you know, they're not going to let that fail, and they're not going to lose the AI race to you know, to China or anybody else. They're just going to throw more money at it and see what happens. So you know, I think about like IBM, you know, years ago, where, you know, IBM was the only, like, they were the technology leader in computers, and you know, it doesn't matter what they are today, it's what they were before, and they had a lot of investment, a lot of government backing, because that was a national security play. And I do think that quantum stocks, like, these are the experts in the emerging technology field, and that's why it's a long-term buy. To me, like, I just think it's very simple. Like, don't overthink it. You know, it's like, what else is like top level technology right now? Rockets, you know, alternate launch mechanisms for, you know, anything space related, cheaper satellites, you know, anything like that. That's high tech, low cost. I think is a much better investment play, at least for the long-term sort of portfolio versus like short-term gains. Like short-term like speculation and stuff, like definitely metals, but longer-term plays, quantum, Rocket Lab, stuff like that. Food producers, that's like that's just more of like income generation for dividends and stuff like that. I just think that they're undervalued as companies, but so those are kind of like the the high level sectors that that I've been kind of focusing on, just because again, I try to keep it simple and high level with these things, where you try to think about like, okay, this this sector's down because why, like it's just things are undervalued. I'm looking at the shares, and it's like Buffett would do the same thing. He would do the the Grams number and look and see, oh, they're half under book value. Do they have a strong management team? Do they have good fundamentals? Do they have good growth prospects? That kind of stuff. So, all right, Ian, shut up. Gotta get rolling. So it's your fault, Don. All right, gas. Gas. I'm holding strong here just because I think this little rejection that we have here might just be like a wave 4 or something. And if it's not, I mean, I'll probably add a hedge because it really did shoot. Oops, sorry, it really did shoot up pretty high.
It had quite a reversal today.
It did. Yeah, it did. So stocks, sorry, go ahead.
I had to lighten up.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I'm still a little underwater on it, but I'll probably add some KOLD or something. I think I only have 3 units long, but still, I still want to protect it, at least some of the recovery profits. So stocks here, I think, has finally hit its I haven't updated this chart here in a minute, but I think it's finally hit its like probably like wave 3 top reversal. If it's not a wave 3 top, then it's a 5, and then it's even worse. So I'll probably add to stocks tomorrow if we see some selling. If we I'll probably wait another day or two here if we see some more buying, but it seems kind of muted with futures open here already. Bitcoin, this one kind of looks like it's kind of finishing up its wave 4 here. It's kind of a weird looking wave 4, but it kind of a short looking wave 3 too. But I don't know. This might just be like an ABC down instead of what I'm drawing here. But ultimately, I still think it's going to resolve to the downside and right around like the 76,000 level. It just kind of like
it could go either way.
Yeah, it could. So like I have the bullish position up here. And I think maybe if like equities sell off, maybe the cryptocurrency will catch a bid, just because people are looking for places to put money. They certainly don't want to buy gold at $7,000 an ounce. So so Nvidia, this was just kind of treading water. I think that this one's this is kind of looking like a head and shoulders pattern. I think it's just kind of
doesn't look good.
Looks sick. Yeah. So I kind of think that you might see maybe something kind of like this. On a good day, but that would be over time, and that would kind of finish this like, this ascending kind of wedge. It kind of looks like the Nasdaq, hey? But this, in my opinion, this is kind of it's propping the market up with just market cap. That's it. It's really not doing anything. It's not moving markets right now. It's just keeping markets in a stasis. And I also see a lot of selling. So it's just slow, steady distribution as far as I'm concerned. Tesla had an interesting day today. I feel like this is where it's getting a little confusing. Not confusing, but like it's kind of like it's going to be a little difficult to see where this one ends up. I think that if it continues up higher here, I want to look at like 470 for potential reversal back down. This one might try to just retrace and then break through lower. I'm just not sure yet. Jury's still kind of out with that. They have earnings coming up, so I think probably what you'll see is maybe some more driving up, and potentially you'll see maybe like a short squeeze or something like that up to 500, tag it, and then reverse back down. MSTR. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm leery of being short Tesla.
yeah, right. But at 500 though, I'm a short.
Yeah, but
470,
there's just too many. There's so much money that is believing, the big picture of what they're doing, that they could drive this thing who knows where.
It's true. Yeah. Just gotta stay on toes.
That wasn't a pun, by the way.
No, that's okay. It's a good one if it was. Okay, so last but not least, here is MSTR. This guy, or strategy. There's a lot of buy volume. I can't deny it. I still think that we're under accumulation here, so it might be frustrating to hold some MSTR longs. But I mean, if you look at the chart, I mean, come on, it's a it's a pretty steep sea leg there. But it should either we see like a wave 4 bounce or something, or we see just a floor for a while. But I'm kind of thinking that you might see crypto kind of swing back into favor, but maybe just after one more dump. I think that might be a good buying opportunity. But yeah, I think that strategy is just a speculative stock, and it's sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But if you're patient, eventually you'll flip here. So I think I might add maybe a little bit more to my position. I think I'm at like 4 units now, but if I improve the cost basis here and we get a jump up to like 250 or something, which is not unreasonable. I mean, you saw ABC leg up here go pretty fast. It was like 2 days. So I think it's reasonable to have a pretty fast jump, especially you got a lot of institutions buying in now. I'll check the options on it. There might be a lot of like call gamma or something like that that's starting to pop up, and that might influence that. But
yeah, I feel fun. I hate the company and I'm long the stock.
Yeah, right. Isn't that funny? Yeah, it's like every time I read an article about Sailor, and like all of his his yachts and stuff, and just being a rich guy, and I'm just like, oh man, like I don't like the company, but
there was this article I read. Yeah, there was an article saying basically the guy's a scammer. And,
yeah, pretty much. He just went to Bitcoin because there was he was filling a vacuum.
Right. Yeah, but I mean he's a real shady guy.
Yeah.
And
sounds like it.
And I'm saying, why am I long the stock?
You guys always
like this.
I mean, it's not a big position.
Sorry, what was that, John? Go ahead.
You guys always just go MSTR? Do you ever play around a little bit with MSTU?
Oh,
that's
yeah. So so MSTU,
that's what I have.
Yeah. So
that's what I've done a little with too, and you hit it right, and boy, it's
it's nice.
Right.
Works out okay. Yeah,
but you hit it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's important to remember though is and I know a lot of people have some MSTU shares that are underwater. So if you think about back a couple months ago, John, I don't know if you were there for that, but I think we held SMST, or at least I held SMST for months, probably at least 9 months. But I had, maybe 3 or 4 trades that ended up clearing 40 grand or something like that, just over the course of a couple days. And it was I keep doing it. But then I just didn't hedge, and just kind of went away from me. So, but the patience part of it is that's why you don't add so much to the position right away. I did that. It was a mistake. I also I'm learning to trade with a public portfolio. My personal risk tolerance was a little much, and again, you kind of get trapped in. Personally, you're like, oh crap, okay, it'll be fine eventually. But I understand that not everybody's in that sort of position, or that they have the same risk tolerance. So when playing these speculative stocks and these leverage ETFs, it is important to set stops and things like that. And I'll be making some changes to some trade alerts and stuff like that in the near future, as I kind of pivot more towards the working people. So more stops, more more limit orders, stuff like that, just so it's easier for people to interpret that stuff, because if it gets away from you, it could be devastating financially. So I don't want to be responsible for poor choices like that. So I've been thinking about this. It's should have taken losses earlier. But it's still it's still just one of those things where you're learning different fun things about what it's like to drive a bus like this. So
yeah.
Sometimes you got a lot of money for new wheels, but other times you're like, damn, I wish we had enough money for bologna sandwiches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've just been doing small amounts, but that's I was reading that they don't even, it's not even really tied into MSTR at all. It's just strictly derivatives,
yeah,
so forth.
it is.
MSTU, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's like small bites, short and steady wins the race. John, like
right.
if you think
Yeah,
about it, anything more than 11% over like 40 years or 50 years or something like that, like you've beat the average of the S&P. I mean, I don't know about the
right,
last couple of years,
right,
but still, like if you've done better than that for a whole year, that's awesome. Keep it up. You're
right,
above average, right? Um,
right,
so anyways, like just as I would tell anybody is, I can't give advice, but always be careful with the leverage ETFs and set those limit orders, set those stops before you even get up from your computer. And in my opinion, the best thing you can do is once you set a stop you're comfortable with, don't move it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I can't tell you how many times I've been trading futures and I've moved the stop, and almost every time it's been a bad idea. So
yeah,
pick the stop, use your brain, and then once once it gets to that level, you gotta just bite the bullet and take the loss. You can always re-enter in later when you have better information.
right.
So all right, guys, I gotta get out of here, but
Okay,
thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. And
okay,
you guys
thank
have
you.
a wonderful evening. Talk to
Yep,
you
you
later.
too. Yep,
See
see
you.
you again.
See you
Yep,
next
bye.
time.